Member for
Yes.
Dunkley. Member for Dunkley has the call.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. You know, the wage subsidy, given the catchy name by our marketing Prime Minister of JobKeeper, was of course a very important support measure for many businesses and workers last year. There's never been any doubt about that. But it was also massively expensive, and it's likely to be around $90 billion, making it the largest single one-off scheme the Australian government has ever run. So you would think it would be commonly accepted that the public are entitled to expect that that $90 billion of public money was spent appropriately. Surely the public are entitled to expect that the government would have the same high standards of accountability for all recipients of public money, be they citizens, workers, or large corporate businesses. Or so you'd think, wouldn't you? Let's engage then in an exercise of compare and contrast to see what the reality really is. Compare. According to an analysis by the Parliamentary Budget Office, JobKeeper payments from April to June last year, $12.5 billion was paid to entities which didn't meet the shortfalls they themselves forecast to qualify for the scheme. Didn't meet the shortfalls. Over the first 6 months of the scheme, $13 billion was paid to businesses which had increased revenue, not the ones that the ministers on the other side of the chamber have been talking about who needed the money to keep their workers employed, businesses who increased their revenue. Contrast. The Prime Minister has described calls for these big profiting businesses and corporations to pay back their windfall taxpayer-funded profit as the politics of envy. Seriously, the politics of envy. I know he meant that as an insult, because he's good at insults, but there is some truth in his statement. It's a truth that the Prime Minister and the Treasurer seem determined to ignore. The truth is there are more than 11,000 people across Australia who are full of envy that the Morrison government is content to stand by while corporations pocket massive profits of about $13 billion, while they, 11,000 ordinary people, have been issued a debt letter by the very same Morrison government, clawing back a grand total of $32 million of JobKeeper that these citizens were apparently overpaid. People like Denise from my community of Frankston, who sent me this email. Dear Peter, I'm on a payment plan with Centrelink as I owed them $1,000 due to being overpaid from JobKeeper. I'm on a disability support pension and was working in a disability day service. It's not fair at all that businesses don't have to pay back what they owe. Denise is happy to pay back money she was overpaid, but she thinks it's only fair that everyone who was overpaid should also have to, including big businesses. Compare and contrast. The government has written to 11,000 people telling them to pay back money, but it is yet to write a single letter to their mates in big business about the overpayments they received. And asked in this parliament recently why companies were not being forced to repay a single cent, while aged pensioners like Jan from my electorate, who lives in Frankston, who received JobKeeper, is being made to pay it back, the Treasurer says, oh well, people knew their obligations. Welfare recipients in particular had an obligation to report JobKeeper as ordinary income. Well, the people that the Treasurer so casually dismisses as welfare recipients are aged pensioners and disability pensioners and single parent pensioners and people whose jobs disappeared with COVID. They are decent, hard-working Australians. They're people like Jess in my electorate who in fact did fulfil her obligation to report JobKeeper as ordinary income, but yet is now paying back $2,300 to the government. Let me tell you about Jess in her own words. I'm a single mother in Frankston with a background in acting. Acting work has been scarce, so I've been working part-time, casually, as a drama teacher. The last 18 months have been hard, like it has been for most people. We're in lockdown again. My company's policy that I work for is to cancel online classes and refund payments if lockdown goes for 3 weeks or more. I don't get JobKeeper because it doesn't exist. I've got 3 children at home. We're barely scraping by. Bills are going unpaid. Stress is going through the roof. And to make matters worse, I've received notice of 3 deaths from JobKeeper overpayments last year, even though I declared my JobKeeper income every fortnight and was told I was allowed to claim a part payment of JobSeeker. Jess did everything right and this government is making her pay it back. Why don't the businesses have to pay their billion of
Order.
profit
The
back.
honourable member's time has